protecting Main Street from Wall Street. It's time for Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn.
You have to have a plan where you know if the market's going to go up, what happens next. And you also have to have a plan where if it doesn't go the way you think, you know what you're going to do.
It's time to put you back in control of your money.
I'm not trying to predict the weather, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? It's predicting the stock market. I'm trying to build a better boat.
This is Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn.
Welcome to Money Unleashed with Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn. We are powered by the Hoffman Financial Group, and each and every week we're bringing you new episodes. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Money Unleashed. And what we're going to tackle now is a big conversation we've been having for quite some time, and I've got a feeling we're going to keep talking about this for the next few years, is Roth Conversions, right? It's a big deal, and why is Roth Conversions one of the top of mind topics that most people want to talk about? Well, I'm going to walk you back to 2019. Right? That is when a big shift happened. There was a rule that was created, and it was called the Secure Act. And most people remember it because it moved the RMD, the required minimum distributions, from 70.5 to 72. Right? And everyone said, hooray. Well, part of that was not a good thing. That was the elimination of stretch IRAs. Because what happens is if you get bequeathed an IRA and you're a non-spouse, you now have to take it out in 10 years and usually 10% a year before there's any penalties. And there might be RMDs you have to take out on that. So you cannot create an income stream that lasts forever on the Secure Act any longer. And so what that means is that it's more beneficial if you're working to leave a legacy to leave it in a Roth, right? Why? Well, now the Roth, you do have to take it out in 10 years as well too. However, when you do, it's tax-free. For instance, if you're bequeathing somebody an IRA and they have to take it all out in 10 years, let's say your kids are doing well and they're making $150,000 a year. Well, now they have to take $100,000 out a year and bump them into a different tax bracket. They may or may not be ready for that. And it's a faster way for the government to get at your money. And I don't know a whole lot of people, Kyle, that like the government getting their money before their children do. So it's about making sure that you've got more Roth money to leave to kids versus IRA money, because it's going to be drained out in 10 years. And that could be a bad thing for the people who you're leaving the money to. So I wanted to start with that and explain why Roth conversions are so important right now. But now let's talk about some ways of doing that for people. I want to give an analogy for everybody who's wondering about these Roth conversions. Creating a Roth conversion and converting your IRA to Roth, it's very similar to like killing a snake. You can either A, chop the head off the snake, and that hurts, right? It's like ripping a Band-Aid off of something. Or you can start chopping at the tail till the snake dies. I kind of like doing it that way. So I have many clients come in and they talk to me about converting to Roth, and they want to do it while they're still working, and I think that's a mistake. Unless you have an ability to save inside of a 401k or you have the ability to add to Roth every single year, I think chopping the head off is a mistake while you're working, because typically while you're working, your federal tax bracket's higher, right? Which means you're going to be giving more back to Uncle Sam every time you convert to Roth. It gets dropped onto your income. You're going to pay taxes on this when you do it. Now, when you retire, usually drop to a different tax bracket, either 12% or 20 or 22%, 24% tax bracket, and that might be a lot less than when you're working, right? So it makes more sense to start converting to Roth in your retirement days versus before you retire, which usually blows people's minds. But if you retire at 65, you've got 8 years to work on converting it to Roth before you're required to take out of your IRAs. So what I like to do is once people retire, we figure out what tax bracket they're in. Let's say you're in the 20% tax bracket, Kyle. Well, okay, now I understand that in order to get to the 24% tax bracket, we've got, let's say, $70,000 before we hit there. Well, what if we take your IRA money off to the side and we grow that $70,000? We take that growth, run right up to the next tax bracket, and convert that to Roth. And if you do this every single year, you can start compounding on a Roth before you have to start taking it out. So that's why it's so important, because you have tax-free money you leave your kids, and you can also use it in the future. So you're spending less in taxes to Uncle Sam, you're using more money, and you're getting the best of both worlds. That's kind of how I like to do it. Now, you have some different views on how you like to use the Roth. So why don't we talk about your views and how you like to convert Roth?
Yeah, I think one of the things to point out, and it's interesting because we've been talking about this for a long time. Like 2019 was years and years and years ago. So I remember when we first started talking about Roth conversions, and it seemed like most financial advisors, most fiduciaries were nervous to talk about it because clients would say, well, I'm not worried about the next generation. I'm only worried about me. So a lot of advisors in 2019 and 2020 and 2021 seemed to just avoid the topic because Well, you on date number one, you're sitting there with a client, they're talking to you, they're going to possibly hire you. Well, you don't want to offend them. So I noticed in the early days that advisors wouldn't really talk about Roth conversions. Well, of course, then Roth conversions became popular. So if you said Roth conversion on the radio or on TV or at a workshop, all of a sudden people came into your office. So 2022, 2023, 2024, now 2025, a lot of advisors are pushing Roth conversions. So one of the things that I just want to be clear about is it's not a one-size-fits-all. Some
That's
people
true.
can completely ignore this conversation. So let's talk about those people. If you're someone who has a cohort that's going to get this money that's a lot of people, so you can diversify with people, right? So I was working with a client. They have 4 children and they have 12 grandkids. So you got 16 people that are going to divide up the tax-deferred asset. What is a tax-deferred asset? That would be an IRA, a 401k, a 403b. So the point being, even though they had a very robust amount of money in their tax-deferred accounts, they can ignore the Roth conversion because 16 people are going to divide it up. So if there's $3 million divided by 16 people, the tax consequence is minimal.
Yeah, it's going to be not as much.
Exactly. So they go old school, right? They have the ability in the early years of retirement to lower their taxes early, right? On the flip side, we have other clients that come in and they say, all right, I've got $3 million of which all of it is in an IRA, and I've got one child who will inherit the money. Okay, well, they have a problem. If that client is only spending $100,000 a year, then that money will compound to a very large number in the future, and that child will have to take out distributions to balance out the tax in a 10-year frame. They are in big, big trouble. And so the point here is you've got to look at your family. You've got to look at who's going to get the money. You've got to look at the accounts to understand, okay, do I already have a Roth or do I need to build one? The other problem that you're dealing with, and you kind of brought it up, is the tax levels. So
Yep.
I always say taxes look like those beakers in chemistry class. You're kind of dropping them in, right? So the first little bit of money, not really taxed. The next bit of money, taxed a little more, a little more, a little more. So the complex thing about retirement is you're choosing your income level. So when you're working, you're just trying to make as much money as possible. You go into your boss's office, you say, hey, I would like a raise. What do I got to do to get a raise? And your boss says, well, if you work a few more hours or if you do a few more projects, I'll give you a little more money. And so you spend your whole life making as much as possible, sending that to the CPA, and then just trying to pay as little as possible. The complex part in retirement is it's on you to pick the level, right? So you may decide, okay, I can live off of $100,000 a year. Or you may decide, no, I want to live off of $200,000 a year. Well, the ramifications from a tax level are totally different at those two levels. If somebody's spending $100,000 a year, they may have room for a Roth conversion. If somebody's spending $200,000 a year, they may not.
They might not.
And that's why this gets so technical and so complicated. It's also why a lot of people who look like us, walk like us, talk like us, wear the suits, wear the ties, have the haircuts, they don't want to touch this. They don't want to get into the tax planning side of the retirement plan because it's complex, and ultimately they just want to sell you some products and move on. So if you're not working with a team who's willing to have the tough conversations, if you're not working with a team who's willing to say, hey, 80% of people do need a Roth conversion, but you're one of the anomalies that can ignore it and go old school, what does that mean? Let's talk about it. Building a custom income plan around taxes is imperative, and it blows my mind. Every day, somebody comes into my office, they're looking to interview me as their advisor, and I say, okay, where's your plan? They go, what do you mean? I say, yeah, where's your income plan? I don't have one of those. I had a guy literally tell me last week, he said, well, I think my advisor has it in his head.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I said, how long you been with this advisor? 10 years. So you mean to tell me you've met with him 4 times a year for 10 years. You met him 40 different times, and not one time ever did he show you an income plan? He goes, well, once again, I'm sure it's in his head. I go, hold on. Just say that to yourself. For a decade, you've known this gentleman, and he's never taken
Not once brought it up?
Never taken an hour or two to write you an income plan to get you ready. And that's why I believe the statistics about fear are the way they are.
Yeah.
We see the numbers that pre-retirement, when you're in the retirement red zone, people are nervous, people are scared. Well, I would argue if we, Wall Street, advisors, fiduciaries, did a better job of getting a written income plan to people, they would feel different. And I'm going to wrap up with this. One of my most famous clients, he's a very, very powerful man. He called me yesterday and he said, Kyle, I am so scared. I said, okay, what are you scared about? He said, well, you don't know yet what it feels like to be 85. And at 85, I feel like I'm losing some of my mental faculties. And I feel like I'm in a position where everything is falling apart. And I said, well, I just want to remind you, I operate a little bit like summer camp. If I didn't call, the kids are okay. He goes,
Yep.
Kyle, I know, but can you send me that income plan again? Because I just need to see it in written copy to understand and to feel better. I said, hey, man, we'll do it again. And I said, matter of fact, you call me every month until you feel better. And he goes, I know how irrational this sounds, but I need to put my hands on my money in a physical form to be able to understand that I'm okay. And I said, can you tell me what's really going on? He said, man, my wife is dying. And I thought, wow. I mean, I got goosebumps as I tell this to you. If there's anything we do for a living, it's to walk people through some really tough times where you become emotionally irrational. And once again, this man is brilliant. This man is impressive. He was powerful. He was successful. And for him to call me and say, I just need a little bit of hope. I need a little bit of help. The fact that advisors don't build these plans, supply these plans, and give people that blows my mind.
Yeah, and if it's happening to him, that means it's happening to everyone else too. And a lot of times, yes, people hire us to make more money for them, but it's a lot more than that, right? Like they hire us to take the emotion out of what's happening in the stock market. It's very difficult. If you're managing your own money, it's a very emotional thing. Like if you just lost 20% and you have $2 million, it's really hard to shave your face in the morning when you made a bad call, right? And you don't have anyone to talk to. You don't have anybody to bounce things off of or just, hey, is this what I'm seeing on the news correct? Or, what should I be paying attention to? What should I not be paying attention to? That's why it's so dang important to have a good fiduciary advisor with a plan that you can look at and go over and redo, based upon what's happening in the world. And that's what gives you the confidence, right? Like it's the fear of the unknown. Let's talk about it. Everyone's talking about uncertainty. Wouldn't it be nice if you had certainty under what you can control as far as what type of income you can provide for yourself so you know that you're not going to spend yourself into oblivion? Yes, it would. That's what a lot of people are coming in talking to us about. Like if you've got somebody who you've been working with that hasn't put together a plan for you to give you that peace of mind, either that or have the ability to talk to you and remind you of that peace of mind, I would argue you're not with the right advisor. And so it all starts with A, figuring out what you got, B, figuring out how much you need, and then C, how do we generate that for you? And the best part is we do this for everybody on a complimentary basis. There's no obligation to work with us, but we put together these plans starting with a portfolio x-ray, and then we back it up with a replace your paycheck challenge and figuring out how can we get you paid throughout retirement, what type of money are we using, and do we need a Roth conversion, yes or no, and then how do we do that for every specific case that comes in. We're happy to help you do all of this, and it all starts with a phone call. We can get this started for you today, 404-640-5511. That's 404-640-5511, or you can find us online at unleashyourmoney.com.
Eric Johnson and Kyle Allyn are investment advisor representatives of Brookstone Wealth Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor and affiliate of Brookstone Capital Management, LLC. BWA and Hoffman Financial Group are affiliated under common ownership. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interest of our clients and to make full disclosures of any conflicts of interest. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, page 4, for additional information. The Hoffman Financial Group and WSB are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a professional specializing in the field of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of this information for their situation. Any client experiences discussed during the show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Any comments regarding safe and secure products and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company and are not offered by Brookstone. Index or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A, Item 4, for additional information. Hoffman Financial Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Insurance licensed in Georgia, number 163546.